Sort of reminds me what it was like starting, and also kind of how exciting those early days are, because you can you know, make mistakes, and at the time it might seem like the end of the world, but when you kind of have been in business for a while, you realise it was so great that you made those mistakes early on when the scale was really small and it wasn't, you know, the end of the world.
Hey guys, thanks for joining us today at the Microsoft Tech Lounge at Monash Uni for our Pedestrian Coach Future Sessions inspired by Windows on 8 things you need to know before you start your own business. We've got 4 great panel members today and we can't wait to hear what they've got to say.
Thanks very much for joining us here at the Microsoft Tech Lounge at Monash Uni in Melbourne. We're really excited to have 4 very successful entrepreneurs joining us for the panel discussion today on 8 things you need to know before you start your own business. Just quickly introduce everyone. Karen is the founder, Karen Reischieck is the founder of top fashion boutique Alice Euphemia, which is in Cathedral Arcade on Swanston Street in Melbourne. And I believe one Kanye West is your store, which may be one, you know, interesting, fun.
People went crazy over that.
Did they?
Yeah.
What did you buy?
He bought some Emma Mulholland stuff.
Okay.
And there was like 1,000 people there. Like, it was just one of those really busy days, so all these girls were beside themselves. And I thought, who's this really dodgy looking guy? Why are all the sales girls really into him and giving him like the eye? I was like, girls, what are you doing? I didn't really understand.
And now?
Now I'm like, oh yeah, I get it.
Jason Sohoy is the Chief Operating Officer of 99 Designs and the Asia Pacific General Manager. 99 Designs is the world's fastest growing online design marketplace. I'm sure we'll learn more about that as we go on, but do you want to give us a quick description of exactly what 99 Designs does?
Yeah, sure. So I guess in a nutshell, what we do is we connect people and businesses that need things designed, graphic designs, with our community of over 200,000 freelance graphic designers from all over the world.
Cool. And offices in San Francisco, London, Paris, Berlin?
That's right.
Melbourne?
Yep.
Cool. Ned Dwyer is a digital strategist and product developer who is working most recently on Tweaky and Native Design.
Native Digital?
Native Digital, excuse me. And do you want to give us a quick description?
Sure. So Tweaky.com is a marketplace that connects small business owners or anyone that needs to change their website with developers around the world. We help people make small changes to their website for $39 per tweet. Cool.
And Pete Keane is co-founder of boutique visual arts and music festival Sugar Mountain Festival, which is held at the Forum Theatre in Melbourne since
3 years ago.
3 years ago, 2009?
2010.
Oh, 2010, yeah. Nice. And you said you're kind of working on expansion.
Yeah, we're expanding our business and the festival itself. So yeah, starting from the bottom going up.
Yeah, headliners at Dirty Projectors last year.
Yep.
Oh, this year, sorry.
Yeah.
So some pretty big names, which is great. So thanks everyone for being here. We'll get on to the 8 things that you need to know. So how to get started. I think Jason had a pretty good tip to start us off on this one, which was start simple.
Yeah.
And so, do you want to kind of give us a bit more?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I guess, you know, for anyone that's looking to go into starting their own business, there's a lot to think about. I mean, you could ask any of these guys on the panel, and I think any business owner would say the same. There is a lot of things that I guess you expect when you go into running your own business. You're going to have to find customers, you're going to have something to sell, whether it be a product or a service. You're going to have to come up with a way to find those customers and market to them, supply them with the goods and services. invoice people for money or somehow collect money from them. Maybe, employ some staff, employment contracts, so on and so forth. I guess some of the things that you have to do, you have a choice in, and some of the other things you have less of a say in. And I think it's kind of important to think about starting as simple as you possibly can, so that you can give the really important things the focus of your time and attention, so that you can really do them right, I guess. And it's early on in your business that you find some of the intentions that you had worked out so really well, and some other things didn't work so well. And if you don't have the time to focus on what's important, then some of those things, you don't get the opportunity to improve your business. And you really need to be doing that really early on when you're getting your business up off the ground.
And Karen, you started in 1997, so a bit of a different marketplace than it is now. But how did you get started with ours?
Well, I think what you were saying really strikes a chord with me, and sort of reminds me of what it was like starting, and also kind of how exciting those early days are, because you can make mistakes, and at the time it might seem like the end of the world, but when you kind of have been in business for a while, you realise it was so great that you made those mistakes early on when the scale was really small and it wasn't, the end of the world. So it's a really good opportunity to kind of, start small and, watch it build and make sure that you can kind of fulfill what you're promising. And, like we were talking a little bit before about, getting a bit of ahead of yourself, sort of like selling online for me, that's a new business and I want to learn, make sure that I've got the right sense of scale to make it all work. But yeah, we started with like $3,000 and just, we just exploited our friends and harassed everyone we knew, and, just wouldn't stop banging on about how amazing it was. And it was really that sort of gathering people together.
Yeah. And without social media as well, which is...
So lots of parties and lots of events. And yeah, we'd have like a weekly event, which just seems ridiculous to me now. Like now they're such a pain in the butt to me. But we loved doing it, and it was, it was just fun.
And then you've started a couple of different startups.
Yep.
What has the process been the same every time, or?
I'd like to think that it gets easier every time.
Yeah.
It doesn't get easier. I feel like I've got a bit more structure each time. But yeah, I think the keeping it easy and keeping it really simple is really important. So for us, Tweaky is a marketplace. We've kind of got this problem where we need customers, and then we need developers on the other side to actually do the work. And if we went out there going after both sides of things, that's kind of a complicated business, and it takes a lot of time to market to two different types of people. So instead, what we did was we focused just on the customer side. Let's go and market and find customers so we can learn about what sort of problems they've got, what sort of things they need to change about their website, how we can help them improve it. And the way that we could not have to focus on the developer side was we just did it ourselves. So we would do all the tweaking ourselves, which doesn't really work at scale, but at the time it kept it really nice and simple.
Yeah, nice. And Pete, your idea kind of was brought from a Japanese influence? Or?
Yeah, I guess we had...
So you'd seen it done before?
Not so much. I guess like a few of myself and the other members have spent a lot of time overseas, and we've had a lot of influence from different festivals overseas. And, I guess we'd been tired of seeing just a band on a stage and then shuffling with thousands of others to herds of others to the next band on a stage. And we wanted it to be a casual event where people are free to roam, and like a house party kind of thing, and kind of go from one room to another at your own ease, and not be struggling with thousands of others. And just an easy event with heavy on visuals, really an immersive space for people to become lost in, I guess. Yeah.
And did you guys start with kind of enlisting people you knew in terms of artists and bands and?
Definitely the first year, we didn't. In the first year, we didn't have as much pull with international acts, so we probably lost there in a way. We filled it out with a lot of really great local acts, and that's where we really wanted to. We really wanted to support the local scene anyway. So I guess in the first year we really pushed that in a big way and enlisted a lot of friends, yeah. And we were all really based in the Melbourne music scene, so a few of us had worked at music venues, and one of the members owns a local record label, and one of the other members, Nikki, owns a touring agency, so kind of immersed in that and very supportive of our local community.
Nice. The second thing that you should know before you start your own business, how to develop your product and have a clear vision. So, Karen, I know when I was speaking to you earlier, you said it was really important to know where you were going, and know that you had kind of a vision ahead of you. How do you think you can foster that in terms of developing your product?
It's almost like a couple of different things. Well, I think for us knowing our product, it was about, you know, being really genuine and thinking that there's something really valuable in what we're selling. So it's not hard for us to push it onto our friends or to, you know, to share it with people because we're enthusiastic and it's genuine. I think people can pick up on that. So I think it was sort of a lot about knowing your product, but a lot about knowing your marketplace as well. Sometimes ignorance, you know, works well for us. Like we couldn't afford to fill a shop with thousands of dollars worth of stock. Like we just finished uni, and you know, we certainly didn't have cash flow behind it. So we just asked people if they'd give us stock for free. I didn't realise that that's actually like a legitimate way of doing business, but it is now. How awesome! But I think sort of understanding the needs of our suppliers. Like the reason we started a business is because we had lots of friends making things. We were making things. And we didn't feel like there was anywhere for them to show. So it was kind of before boutiques were that popular in the city, and we were in a bit of a divey area, and it was all about chain stores. And I think one of the head lecturers at RMIT had written this thesis about how the boutique industry, you know, couldn't survive in Australia because it wasn't a supportive environment or whatever. So we certainly had a few things kind of against us. But you know, building relationships and trying to work out what our suppliers needed and helping them, and you know, just having these launch parties and things that became like our.
And you always knew you wanted to be a boutique. You didn't ever want to expand to.
Well, all we wanted to do at 21, and I started with a business partner, and we did it for about 5 years, and I've done it ever since on my own. But when we started, all we wanted to do was like have a good time and have our friends around us and not have to go to work. So. Mission accomplished. But then after a few years, you know, that kind of changes. But our whole drive was about local production and suppliers that we sort of believed in and wanted to, you know, promote.
And Ned, with your product, the products that you've had, product developer is part of your title. How do you work through that and make sure that, you know, you are able to stick with your initial vision, even if the product isn't quite right, but you still deliver to that vision?
Yeah, so I think that's really challenging, is like focusing just on the one thing. You know, for us, we started off with, something kind of completely different to what we're doing now. So originally we were actually building 99 designs for CSS, which I'm not sure if everyone knows what CSS is, but basically it's the code that makes your site design look good. Without that, it just looks like text and looks terrible. But it's too complex. Like it's, as an idea, it's too complex. So we sort of stepped back and zoomed out a little bit, I guess, and looked at what our core vision was going to be, which was really about helping small business owners to get things done online. We felt like there wasn't really a place where if my mum wanted to start a small business and she wanted help to make a change to her website, there wasn't really somewhere I could safely send her. So that was kind of our vision, and that's enabled us to shape and keep our product nice and simple. But at the same time, you know, every day we come up with a new idea about that can tack onto that. They're like, what if we built a thing that does this? And you kind of have to slap yourself on the wrist and step back and go, no, you can't build that. You're still building this one thing. And so we really made the decision that we're only going to focus on Tweaky, and particularly with Tweaky around making small changes to people's businesses online. And all the other ideas, they can sit there by the wayside, we're just not going to touch them. So I think it's about saying no. It's about saying no to many things. Hey, we're not going to touch it for now. Hey, who knows what's going to happen in a couple of years?
Exactly, yeah.
Don't want to throw them away completely, but yeah.
Well, I hear that, you know, startuppers get cravings to just keep starting things over and over.
Yep.
And Pete, you guys are probably going through some sort of, you're definitely going through product development, I guess, with the change in scale. And how do you know, has your vision changed from the first year over the couple of years, or are you sticking to that really clear kind of?
It definitely still has a base in the original idea. The original idea still has a grand base in our product, but it definitely has expanded to new ideas and new, definitely because of the audience growth. It's changed our angle and the way we're wanting to expand our product. Yeah, and definitely the audience size is going to be a big player on the way we go about things in the future, I guess. And,
yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. And Jason, what do you reckon about product development?
Yeah, so yeah, it's interesting. I think basically, you know, knowing your customer and knowing what problem you're solving for the customer is really important in articulating, you know, what your product is or what your product should be in the future. And you know, that's definitely something that can be a moving target over time. And if I think about 99 Designs, you know, we didn't actually come up with the idea for 99 Designs in the beginning. And in fact, it originated in an online forum on our parent company called SitePoint.com. And so SitePoint was this forum of you know, developers and designers, and you know, they were on these forums, you know, chatting about, you know, the latest and greatest ways to do things in the online world. And in one particular forum thread, some designers were competing with each other just for bragging rights, just to prove who was the better designer, and, you know, and nothing else. And I guess, you know, this kind of stuff just kept on happening to the point where a customer came along and said, well, I actually need a logo for my business. How about, you know, I give you guys the brief, you battle it out, and then, you know, I'll pay $100 to the person who designs the best logo. And so, you know, that's basically how 99 Designs got started. We, I guess, put the tools and the processes around how that design process should play out, so that, you know, customers can come, pay, put up a brief, designers get involved, submit designs, and then the customer chooses the best design at the end of 7 days. But it certainly wasn't all there from day one. In fact, you know, in the beginning we tried to kill it off by, you know, charging for it. You know, we locked down the thread, you know, and charged $10 for customers to post their ideas to it, but they just kept doing it.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I think certainly the way we approach product design is incrementally. It's kind of one step at a time. You know, not starting with a grand vision that, you know, has, you know, every single widget and, you know, possible feature in the world, but instead coming up with the simplest possible thing you can do first, and then tacking on things from there.
Yeah. Reaching the end vision, I guess.
Yeah.
When you get there. So the third point was where to find help and advice. And I think, Jason, you suggested making use of existing networks.
Yeah. So I guess, you know, with starting a new business, often it can be tempting to, you know, just kind of start where all the action's happening. So in the tech world, you know, obviously because 99 Designs is in tech, the tempting thing for a lot of tech startups is to think, oh, I need to be in Silicon Valley. Or I need to be in some other startup hub where all the action's happening and there's lots of money and there's lots of, you know, venture capitalists. And I think what a lot of people in those circumstances dismiss too easily is the power of the network that they already have. And you know, and absolutely, you know, taking advantage of your friends. And you know, often it is your friends that become the people that you pitch to in the beginning. You know, I've pitched ideas to my mum before, and definitely to, you know, girlfriends and friends as well. But also, you know, they can quite often become your first customers, your first suppliers, maybe even, you know, lend you money to get started. And, you know, there's lots of people, you know, if I was starting today in Melbourne, there were lots of people that I could call on to help out and would be, only too happy to help out. That wouldn't be the case, I guess, if I were to up and go to Sydney and start from scratch or Silicon Valley.
So better to start where you already are.
Yeah, I think so.
And Ned, you be clear on knowing how to ask for help.
Yeah, definitely. I think that there are a lot of people around in every community that can give you advice no matter what sort of thing you're doing. I think it's about looking for the people that have gone through what you're kind of going through at the moment. So for me, one of my tricks was every time I had a guest lecturer at uni, I'd always approach them afterwards and get them to agree to have coffee with me, and then just go and pick their brains about something I was working on, or even a project I might be doing at uni. Two or three of them have become kind of semi-regular mentors, people that I still catch up with, and one of them ended up investing into Tweaky.com, which is Lenny Mayer, who also invested in 99 Designs. So it's like, I think it's that kind of thing. There are a lot of people out there who you'd be surprised how much time that people are willing to give you. And now my kind of rule of thumb is kind of, if I've got a problem in a particular area, like IP for instance, is I'll find someone that's gone through an IP battle, so a trademark battle or something like that, often a CEO, and I'll send them an email and say, hey, I need this, you get time to catch up with coffee, and pretty much everyone does. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, feel free to ask, because also those relationships can lead into so many other things, so
yeah.
It's definitely worthwhile.
Yeah, ask for help, and then eventually ask for money.
Yeah, exactly. It's a long play. It's a long play. Yeah.
Nice one. And Pete, you reached out to a bunch of people.
I guess for us, it's trying not to fear asking your industry peers. A lot of people that maybe are a lot more established than yourself, or less established than yourself. Sharing information also, like a lot of people maybe have fear in sharing information, so they get one up on your business or whatever. It's like building the community and asking for help within that community is only going to help the community thrive. So I think we touched on it before over there.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, and like swallowing your pride, I guess, and
totally
being open.
Because I don't know everything, and I'm sure the other person doesn't know everything. So putting your two heads together.
Yeah, pulling it together makes a difference. Karen, where did you get your help in the beginning?
I think we were quite kind of single-minded and quite kind of determined about what we were doing, but we did get a lot of help from, I guess, mostly from the brands that we were working with. We sort of teamed up and sort of treated it a bit like you might do with a band or with a client. It's sort of a mutually beneficial situation. So how can we work together to both sort of get to this point? So I think sometimes in the fashion industry it's quite isolated and very competitive, and sort of genuine sharing of information might not happen that often. People don't really want to discuss suppliers and terms because it is such a big part of your business. But we were sort of so innocent and naive that we would sort of ask those questions and learn a lot that way as well. So, and just one thing I love about having like a physical location is that so many people walk through the door that have got so much incredible experience and sort of so keen to help you. And it's just having a conversation with someone, and all of a sudden you've got a sort of a lifelong like mentor or friend or like work associate.
And so you've had mentors along the way, or unofficially?
Maybe not as many as I probably could have. Like now I'm kind of 16 years in, I'm really into it. But I guess I've probably unofficially, well, getting mentored as well. It's never too late. It's always good to get other opinions, and probably especially after you've had something for a while and you're getting a little bit kind of comfortable. Yeah, it's probably really good to get outside views too.
Yeah, for sure. The importance of funding and cash flow. So Pete, how did you guys get funding in the beginning? Was it government grants? Was it?
Originally, we went to an investor. Just a new friend of mine at the time who owned a music venue in the city, and yeah, he really wanted to help grow the local community of the north side, like Fitzroy, Collingwood area, and we both had the same interests, and yeah, he was really psyched on my idea, and it was actually one of the big pushes for me to actually make it happen. So he helped us out in the first year, and then we went on to visit the banks and get that helping hand there. And at the moment, yeah, along the way, we've definitely done too much work outside of the festival to try and make the money ourselves. So trying to not so much lean on investors and banks and do the hard yards ourselves is something we believe in. It's definitely a very tiring option, but it's something you have to do sometimes. Yeah.
Have you guys, any of you guys, had investors? I expect probably Tweaky and 99 you mentioned before.
Mm-hmm.
What's that process been like?
So yeah, 99 Designs, we raised around April 2011, and that was with some VCs in Silicon Valley called Excel Partners. We're lucky enough to kind of secure a grant funding with them. And for us, you know, like, it wasn't so much about the money. Like, it's an easy thing to say, you know, like $5 million, it wasn't about the money, you know. But I guess, you know, we were bootstrapped from day one. So, you know, our founders, you know, this wasn't their only business. They had, in fact, 4 startups in total, of which 99 Designs was one. And 99 Designs had been, you know, cash flow positive from very early on. So it wasn't, you know, like one of these businesses that just had 1 billion users and, you know, kind of, you know, no clear way of making money. In fact, you know, money, as I described earlier, was kind of one of the first things that we wanted to test out. You know, can we make money out of this idea? And so the funding process, you know, we were fortunate enough that actually we were knocking back a lot of approaches, just because, yeah, again, you know, we weren't hot after, you know, a whole lot of money, and two, you know, we were just kind of, I guess, looking for more than that. We were looking more for like the connection and the mentoring and the advice and the leverage in terms of networks and opportunities that it would open up. And so Excel Partners, you know, they proved that by, yeah, kind of getting us introductions to cool companies and cool executives that we wanted to meet. And, you know, it was over the course of, you know, a couple of years that they really, I guess, proved the value that they had to offer, as opposed to it just being, you know, kind of, you know, writing in a check and where you go.
That can be really dangerous, I think. Like, sometimes your desperation for needing cash flow, that's what you really want to avoid, is needing to take on a partner that doesn't have the skills or the support or the environment that you want your business to kind of flourish in.
Yeah, absolutely.
How's it been for Euphemia?
Well, we're really small, so like I'm a big fan of small business, and I like see a lot of value in it, sort of socially and financially, in all sorts of ways, socially again. It's been quite easy for us just to fund it ourselves.
So it's all been funded within. Any grants? Yeah, you've had.
Yeah, our most recent year was City of Melbourne grant. And,
yeah.
I think we've just put in one recently to Australian, a government grant anyway.
Yeah.
Australian government. And yeah, definitely more focus on grants at the moment. They've been a massive help, and also the City of Melbourne, the people from the City of Melbourne offices are a huge help to us as well.
They're amazing.
Lending advice along the way, and also we're approaching them at the moment to give us advice and leading into the future with our business, because they're definitely the ones in the know for us. Yeah.
And there are a lot of places you can go for information about grants, even like Melbourne City Council, state, federal funding, industry funding. Like there's a lot of grants out there that sometimes you sort of hear about the same people going for all the time. Like I know grant writing is kind of quite a skill, and you know, it is a bit intimidating sometimes, but it's so worth it.
Yeah, I know a lot of the other sorts of entrepreneurs and small business owners we've spoken to through the Pedestrian Coach system have stressed the importance of applying for the grants if they're right for you, and actually making sure that you read through all of the information and that they do apply, that you do fulfil the standards that they require for you to apply for the grant before you do so.
It's just a good process too.
I'm kind of on a little bit earlier stage. I mean, just as a comparison, so everyone knows, like, I mean, we've been running now for about 9 months. You guys have been going for 3 years. Jason, you're 5 years, and you guys have been going for 16 years. So we're like babies. But at the same time, like, from my personal opinion, at least at the very, very early stage, is that our focus, we're not focusing on grants right now, we're focusing on the business. And that's really important for us, is because, you know, writing grants for application processes can actually be kind of complicated. There are a lot of boxes you've got to check, and if you start changing your business to be able to make sure that you meet the conditions of grant, it can distract you, focus you from your focus from the product.
Yeah. We've never applied for grant, or we've never spent too much time and energy on grants. I think we might have applied in the early days for a Melbourne City Council grant, but I think it's because of that feeling that we're going to do it anyway. We're sort of ahead of ourselves, we're kind of, you know, on the run. But I do think for some businesses it's a really great experience to go through. But you're right, like, there are a lot of criteria, and it is tempting, you know, to tick that box just for a small grant, and which is just going to throw you off track and be more pain than it's worth. But it's another tool you may or may not use.
Yeah. I think we will try and just kind of get out the last 4 points. Sorry, I might have been useful, so that we get some time for Q&As. So, how to sell your product. I think, Ned, you had some pretty interesting not boiler room tactics.
Right. Okay. So yeah, I mean, I think finding people to buy your product is kind of one of the. That's what you're doing if you're running a business. You're selling something to somebody. You know, we're selling website customization services. You guys are selling tickets to a festival. So you need to find the people that are going to buy that stuff, and I think that getting out there and selling is a really good skill to have. So for us, at early days, it was all like kind of what I called hand-to-hand combat. It was about like going out and finding or approaching people one-on-one and saying, hey, I looked at your website and it kind of sucks, and this is how I think you can improve it, and this is how much it will cost to get done, and I'll do it for you today or whatever. And that was really effective and a really good way for us to better understand what our product needs to be and how it would work and what the problems were there and that sort of stuff, like what people hated about it. And then as we're sort of going along, it's kind of like, okay, people talk about like PR and advertising, lots of this stuff, and I hate both those things for so many reasons. But the biggest reason is that they're both kind of hard and complicated if you don't know what you're doing. But one of the things I have found really helpful is kind of just finding people that are already writing about stuff online that's similar to what you're doing. So what we'll do is, I'll go and do, actually I used to do music PR stuff. And so like, we did a campaign actually for Kimbra back in the day. It was like, cool, how do we get Kimbra out there to a whole heap of new people and find out people that might write about it? It's kind of a hard thing to do, but so what we did is we found something that's kind of similar. It's like the Pepsi to the Coke. And for her at the time, it was like Janelle Monáe. So we did a Google search for everyone that had ever written a blog about Janelle Monáe. And then we sent her Kimbra stuff and said, hey, you like Janelle Monáe, you might like this, check it out, and if you like it, write about it. And that was really effective for us. So we kind of use a similar tactic now with Tweaky, where it's like, if somebody's written about some kind of weird website customization, like how to add Facebook to your blog, then we'll contact them and say, actually, you know what, we do that, and it's $39, and this is our process, this is our landing page. So I think that's kind of, it's learning those tricks to do sales, and it's starting really simple. Selling stuff to your friends, like throwing a party and doing that sort of stuff, is just an easy way to get started. Like you find out whether or not they hate something or love something, and then you know there's a cash in the door and you can sell them people you don't know.
But they're also kind of, you know, when I say friends, I just sort of, you're always sort of building advocates, and you know, you're always in circles where you appreciate the same things. Like it's like maybe sometimes I think the notion of marketing and PR sort of gets a bit overwrought when it is just about spreading that circle and being genuine about your interests, I guess. And hopefully it's worthwhile to them.
That's right.
It's not going to be worthwhile to them. We're just going to be doing a lot of talking.
We might just quickly pop on, if you guys have questions about certain topics, then please do ask at the end. When to and when not to follow trends. So I'm sure the fashion world is full of trends.
You do, well, this is, for me, this is a hard one. I think, like, our business has changed a lot from me buying what I like to having buyers who, you know, have got a different idea about, you know, what's exciting. Because my interests have kind of, you know, changed as the business has grown. But one, I guess we always try and keep to the same kind of principles. Like, we're always Australian made, and New Zealand. We throw in New Zealand. We sort of think it's similar. So yeah, small local production, you know, and that's something that's really tempting to change because, you know, a lot of our brands have expanded to a point where it's not practical for them to make anymore, and we still have such a great relationship and we have such a big customer base for it, and, you know, you really want to keep working with them, but so many times we've had to kind of close that door and kind of move on and find new and exciting brands, and that keeps our business kind of, I guess it keeps its integrity, but also keeps it interesting and changing as well. So that's sort of not necessarily a trend, but more of a kind of a business kind of principle. But yeah, we follow trends all the time.
In terms of what you stock rather than the way you buy.
Well, things that we're excited about.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
And Pete, what about Sugar Mountain in terms of
I guess trendy. I guess like a lot of the acts that we would ideally want to book probably wouldn't sell as many tickets. So we do showcase a lot of those acts that we do love. We love all of our acts anyway. Anyone that we put on the act, we have to at least really, really believe in. But yeah, we showcase a lot of the acts we love, but keep observant and our eye on blogs and what people are listening to and what people are dancing to at the clubs and stuff. But yeah, I guess bending to the trends, a lot of the time it might not sell tickets because 6 months down the track, if we're booking them in January and for the next January, like it's a year away.
So we've got to be ahead of the trend.
Yeah, we've got to kind of be ahead of the trend, but yeah.
Nice. And the next point, how to take calculated risks. So Ned, talking about when to break the rules.
Yeah, so I think when you're starting out, like you kind of get a really short period of time where you can break a lot of rules, and it kind of doesn't matter. And I think sometimes people kind of get a bit scared to break rules, but I think it's kind of part of the game. To be honest, like I'd like to say off the record, but clearly it's not. But like for instance, in fact, somebody came to me just the other day and said, "Hey, I'm just about to launch a new website. It's the first time I've launched a website before. And I'd like to know a local Melbourne startup lawyer that I can talk to about getting my terms and conditions written, and so you can protect my IP for my website so nobody steals my idea, and just get a sort of general idea for it." And I was like, "Bro, you're about to spend up like thousands and thousands of dollars to get advice for this kind of thing that for a website you haven't launched yet, so you've got no idea whether or not anyone's actually going to care or give you any money, or whether it's going to be a sustainable business. It just feels like a crazy thing to go and spend money on." In fact, there's kind of a funny story on this because when we first launched Tweaky.com, and Jason knows this well, we haven't talked about it, but he knows this well, we stole the terms and conditions from 99 Design. Verbatim. I changed a bunch of things, but I clearly didn't change enough, so there were still references throughout the whole thing. It's a little bit embarrassing, but we only just got our terms and conditions made, and we're fine. Like, nobody's sued us, nobody shut us down or anything like that, and they kind of covered most of the bases anyway. We're kind of similar in many ways in terms of how we interact with customers. But I think you can get too bogged down if you try to, if you stick to all the rules and you're like, look, I can't do anything until I've registered a company and I've got a bank account set up and I've got a proper email address and a proper domain name and a proper website. It's like, no, that's bullshit. Like, you can start with like virtually nothing and launch it and get it out there, and then work out if it makes any money. And if you sell something and you make $1, then go, okay, cool, I made $1, maybe now I need to open a bank account and put that into or something like that. In the meantime, use your Gmail account and work out ways around it. Sorry, Jason.
Yeah, I guess it's lucky that you guys are friends.
That's it. Yeah.
99 Designs itself is a bit of a calculated risk, I guess, in terms of taking it from the forum to its own site.
Yeah.
Was there much risk involved early on? Did you feel? Do you feel?
I guess, you know, in that circumstance, the risk was managed a lot more. You know, especially the way we didn't commit too much to kind of building out the tool set and, you know, the features until we'd kind of seen a bit of traction first. So that was a very deliberate approach that we had the luxury of being able to take. I guess, you know, in a lot of cases, you know, when you're launching a business, you don't have an established community where you can kind of go out and test some ideas with and see if they'll float. But at the same time, you know, you should also, I guess, think long and hard about how you could do things a little differently. Like, you don't, just like Ned says, you don't have to go and invest money in lawyers and accountants and set up bank accounts and, you know, build your entire website or, you know, stock your inventory with, you know, the entire kind of next season's collection as you kind of dream about it in your head if you don't have any customers to sell them to yet. And, you know, one of the principles that I really like is from the founder of Pinterest. Oh, sorry, not Pinterest, Zynga. He calls it ghetto testing. And so what he does is he challenges his employees. If they have a great idea, he challenges them to summarise it in 5 words, and then basically they put it up on one of their websites which gets a lot of traffic. And if people are clicking through to it, then it means there's, you know, clearly they're capturing some interest, and, you know, that idea might have legs. The link doesn't go anywhere. You know, like it's literally just to kind of a test to see whether anyone is interested in that particular idea. But it's a useful kind of concept of selling something before you've even got something to sell.
Yeah,
I like that.
Do you run a risky business, Karen?
No, I don't. But I think that I know how comfortable I am with what kind of risk, and I think I mean, that's why it's always great to get other people and to hear other people speaking about their own businesses too, because it kind of shakes it up a little bit and sort of helps you kind of formulate where you fit in on the risk profile. But for me, you know, it's quite a sort of a lifestyle business too. So I always want to, you know, make sure that, you know, I'm comfortable with what we've got. And in my industry, it's really easy to buy things, and it's not necessarily so easy to sell things. So it's really tempting to kind of get carried away and want to feel like some ginormous store with, you know, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of stock, and that's, you know, that can be risky and stressful. So yeah, I'm like baby steps. Still, baby steps.
And lastly, which opportunities are worth your while? So, Karen, you mentioned you were pretty important moment when you realised you were starting to say no to lots of things and didn't want to say yes to everything anymore. And
well, I very occasionally kind of sort of talk to uni students about brands that they're trying to build, and they're sort of doing a bit of a case study. And, you know, we sort of talk about, like, they'll come to me and they'll sort of fake sell me their brand. And quite often I'll ask them ridiculous things and they'll always say yes, you know, to try and sort of get in with the buyer or to kind of, to get the sale. And always feel like that's a real point when you're first starting out, this temptation, in my industry anyway, to kind of say yes to things and to kind of bow down to people that you might think have authority over you, or, you know, are buyers of your product. You know, there are some things that you just can't afford to say yes to and that aren't going to work for you, and you need to be aware of that and save yourself a bit of heartache. So maybe not saying yes at the time, but just sort of taking a bit of time out to get other opinions or to really assess if you can afford to say yes.
yeah.
Because it's so easy at the time, like, yeah, of course I can make you an exclusive and you only want 2 and I'm getting the whole thing hand beaded in, you know, it's the whole world of pain sometimes.
Yeah. More harm.
Yeah, I think so.
And Jason, you mentioned you guys were saying no to some investors even, which is, I guess, maybe, do you think that's quite a unique thing for a small or startup?
I guess
Or why did you say no? I mean, what was the...
Mostly because it was distracting.
Yeah.
You know, if somebody wants to find out about your business to the extent that, you know, they would be prepared to put up money for it, that means, you know, it's like, you know, it's even worse than buying a house, in fact. But, you know, you think about it, you know, they have to really understand your business and what makes it tick, and they have to know all the financials, etc., to be able to get comfortable with buying your business. And that takes a lot of time to kind of get someone comfortable with. So for the most part, it was just about, hey, we're trying to grow a world-class business and make this the best possible thing it can be. We don't really have the time to, you know, kind of talk, you know, share the most intimate details of our business and get you comfortable.
Yeah.
If we really needed the money, obviously, you know, it probably would have been different. But at that stage, we were just concentrating on our business.
Yeah. Nice. And for you guys, Clayton,
So,
I forgot the question.
which opportunities are worth your while? So when, I guess Elliot, you were mentioning that there was just you guys doing, like actioning the actual design early on, so you could only say yes to a certain number of things, but
Yeah.
was that everything? Were you like...
So, before I did this business, I was running an agency, and before that, I was doing like 10 billion things at once, and always doing little different bits and pieces. And the complication of that is that none of them really had enough energy to really do anything with them. But focusing on like 5 different things at once, you're actually really focusing on none of them, because none of them is really going to be able to make enough money to justify it, whereas you just focus on one thing. So I think that's kind of where I sort of, it's taken me a few years to get to be able to do that, to be able to focus a little bit more. But now where we are, you know, we're having to make a decision between, there's a bunch of different products which are kind of spinning out of what we're doing, where we're identifying new opportunities as a result of what we're doing, which are not core to our brand, but which are great opportunities and potentially really huge businesses. And so it's kind of hard for us to say no to those things. I kind of talked about that before. For me as well, you know, before we were doing this agency, and it was doing quite well, and I've been doing that for like 2 or 3 years, and it was really comfortable. You know, we had like office and staff and people, and it was clients, and it was fun, and it was cool. But we kind of, for me personally, I knew that I wanted to grow something that was a lot bigger than that. That was like, that was that world-class startup, something that was actually going to be able to scale. And so for me, that was about making an active decision to shut something down. I didn't know it was going to happen, but in my mind, I was like prepared to shut it down to pursue what I really wanted to be doing with my life. And I think that is a hard decision to make, and a really hard thing to realise what it is that you actually really want to do.
for myself, I guess it's learning when to say no more so, because we're struck with so many, I guess like in the last few years we've had a lot of opportunities to say yes to our favourite bands or our favourite visual artists or whatever, and whether or not they're asking for too much money or money that we can afford, it's always a really tough one. Working out the balance for that. Yeah, whether or not 40k is fittable in your budget is for your favourite band is a difficult one.
Thanks very much, guys. We might open it up to Q&A. Does anyone have any questions based on anything that we've spoken about, that the guys have said, anything specific for your own businesses? Yeah?
Well, lots of people say that when you start your own business, you are more likely than not to run at a loss for like the first few weeks, maybe months. What time frame should you give yourself before you start reflecting and kind of do like an analysis of what's happened to try to be better? So you don't want to run at a loss for the rest of the year. But yeah.
I might just repeat the question for the sound, but I think essentially it's how long are you comfortable running at a loss for before you really make a serious assessment on the business and the financial state of it?
Well, for me, we didn't want to. We didn't plan to run at a loss. So if it had been 6 months down the track and we were still running at a loss, we would have had to have pulled the plug. So we started very small with the anticipation that we'd be cash flow positive very quickly, and we didn't spend very much to do that. And we kind of, sweat bucks, like we did a lot of things ourselves, and enjoyed, doing that to cover it. So for me, that wasn't sort of going to work. But I have had friends had to pull the plug after a year, you know, which is a really hard decision to kind of come to. Yeah.
Did you guys run at a loss the first year? Or?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, I hear that comment a lot for numerous businesses, bars and whatever. And I see people 3 years, 2 years, however many, and they're still running at a loss. It's kind of like, for I think all of us, we're running small businesses, and I think that's the safest way to start any business, is to start off small. That way you're keeping your risks quite low, and you can shape your business as it grows to be a moneymaker, hopefully. At the moment we're kind of in a situation where any money we make is going back into the business, so
yeah.
It's starting to turn around in a good way, slowly.
I guess you need to know what assets you're building, and you know what sort of loss is it. I guess it's much more complicated than that. You might not be making any money, but you're building this amazing asset that is growing in value.
So I kind of made a big mistake when we launched. We basically around July 1, it was around that in July, and me and my co-founder sat down and said, all right, we're not going to drink until we're profitable. We're not going to drink a drop of alcohol until we're profitable. And that was basically what the deal was. One of our investors was like, you are an idiot, and like this is going to take a very long time. And we're like, no, we're pretty confident we can do this. Well, I reckon it'll take me, maybe 3 months, if that. And it has now been 9 months since I've had a drink, and I'm very much looking forward to having a drink. It's going to be a really good day. But yeah, it's one of those things where we're fine with it, like that we haven't quite hit that point yet, because one, we're very driven to get to that point. And it makes you make decisions that you wouldn't make if you had lots of cash sitting around and you're just sort of able to, we've got a finite date when we're going to run out of money, and we need to make sure that we get there before then. But I hear, apparently, I don't know, I haven't really had experiences before, but apparently normally it takes a year or 2 years or whatever to get there. It's often quite rare that you have a business where you're able to actually get there in a relatively short period of time. I think retail is really good for that reason.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but I feel like also in the current financial climate, also it could be taking longer. It could be a longer process for you to start making money rather than that quick turnaround.
Well, I think also our expectations were really different to what they would be if I started now. So our expectations were just to be able to pay our bills and pay for our stock. So it wasn't about having this amazing income or being able to do all these things and expand really quickly. So it's much more of a conservative kind of view. But it's good, that's so great to have that kind of line in the sand too, because so many people wallpaper over it, you're so busy sort of running the business that you almost don't recognise what's happening to your cash flow. So I think that's really awesome. I'm excited for you to have that drink. You're going to love it so much.
I'll invite you to the party.
Yeah, you have to throw another party.
It's awesome.
I'm sure he'll tweak your website.
There'll be heaps of hot girls, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Any last questions before we wrap up? No? So as you can see, this has been recorded, guys, so we will hopefully be popping that up somewhere for everyone to watch again. Thanks so much for coming. Thanks to the Microsoft Tech Lounge and Windows for having us, and thank you all for being here. I hope that it was insightful. I know that I definitely learned. Thanks very much.
Thank you.